Honorable members have examined and approved the votes and proceedings on Tuesday, 13th March 2018. Announcements. We have in the gallery students of Baptist Nursery Primary School from Port Harcourt Crescent off Gimbia Street. They're already standing. Round of applause for them. Thank you for coming. Could you please take your seats? Also in the gallery are students of Nigeria Canadian College, Abuja, from Jabi District, FCT Abuja. Round of applause for them. Thank you for coming. Kindly take your seats. Honorable Abonta, you are a late comer and you are adding insult to injury. Also in the gallery are students of Emmanuel's Learning Spring High School from Mararaba near Abuja. They're standing. Round of applause for them. Thank you for coming. Kindly take your seats. Last but not least, students of Handmaids Girls Secondary School from Kuja, Abuja. Already standing. Round of applause for them. Thank you for coming. Kindly take your seats. Any member has a petition to present to the House, will please rise to do so. Any petition? No petition. I have notices of point of order. First is from Honorable Doye Diri.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker, my esteemed colleagues. My name is Diri Doye. I represent the Yenagoa Kolokuma Opokuma Federal Constituency on the German from Bayelsa State. Mr. Speaker, honorable colleagues, I rise to move this point of order according to our rules on Order 8, Rule 4, that we take this matter, a matter that has to do with the disappearance of $150,000 mistakenly paid to the Athletic Federation of Nigeria by the International Amateur and Athletic Federation. I so move.
Two aspects to his motion. First is that we consider the matter as urgent, and secondly, we set aside relevant provisions of our rule to enable him move the motion today. First limb of the motion will be seconded by Honorable Yusuf Buba.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I am Yusuf Buba Yakub. I represent Gombe Home Federal Constituency. I rise to second the first leg of the motion that we consider it as very important and urgent. I so second.
Those in favor of the motion say aye. Those against it say nay. Ayes have it. Second limb, Honorable Salisu.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My name is Honorable Salisu Zakari Mingi, member representing New York Federal Constituency. I'm from Boston. Mr. Speaker, I rise to second the second limb of the motion that we suspend our relevant rules and proceedings and allow Diri Doye to take the floor. Thank you.
Those in favor of the motion say aye. Those against it say nay. Ayes have it. Honorable Doyle, you can now move your motion.
Thank you, the Right Honorable Speaker. Honorable colleagues, this motion is on the urgent need to investigate the alleged disappearance of $150,000 from the International Amateur and Athletics Federation to AFN, the Athletics Federation of Nigeria, and the threat of banning our dear country, Nigeria, if the money is not returned. The House notes reports in various news outlets, particularly in the Guardian of March 8, 2018, that the International Amateur Athletic Federation reportedly paid $150,000 to AFN, the Athletic Federation of Nigeria, instead of $15,000, which is an annual grant to members of federations across the world for 2017. Again, the House notes that according to the reports, the IAAF, which is the International Amateur and Athletic Federation, accountants later discovered the error and subsequently asked their own counterparts in Nigeria, the AFN, to refund the excess payment, but the money seems to have disappeared into the thin air. Informed that some board members of the AFN are calling for an emergency congress to look into the scandal and have faulted the sports minister, Solomon Dalong, who was said to have set up a committee to probe the circumstances surrounding the missing grant. The House is worried over allegations that the recipient of the money might have used his private account to collect the money from the International Amateur and Athletic Federation sometime last year when the sports minister had dissolved the board of various sports federations. Further worried that in the era of the operation of the Treasury Single Account TSA by all MDAs in the country, monies can be received and spent so easily contrary to the extant laws. Concerned that not only is the image of the country being seriously tarnished by the unseen failure of the AFN to refund the excess payments at the instance of the IAAF, Nigeria also runs the risk of being banned for international sporting competitions. Again, concerned that the effect such a ban will have on our youth of this country who see sports as a viable and veritable means of livelihood. The House resolves to 1. Refer this to the Committee on Sports to carry out a forensic audit on this alleged looting of the excess grant payments and determine how the steps being taken so far. 1, to refund the money to the international body to prevent Nigeria from being banned, and 2, measures being put in place to prevent further infractions in future. And finally, to invite the Minister of Youth and Sports and the AFN and the Central Bank of Nigeria and any other connected parties to explain their roles in this matter. I so move, Mr. Speaker, honorable colleagues.
Second, Honorable Adiogun.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker, honorable colleagues. My name is Albert Abiodun Adio, representing the people of Ife Central, East, South, and North of Ife Federal Constituency. Mr. Speaker, I'm from the source, Osun State. Mr. Speaker, I rise to second the motion ably moved by my friend and colleague, Diri Dorie. I so also second the Speaker. Thank you for this opportunity.
Honorable Doedri, you know, you were very extensive in the course of moving motion. So I suggest you take 2 minutes to highlight your arguments, and then we'll take contribution from other members who are willing to speak on the subject matter.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. The motion is a straightforward motion. It is about annual grants being given to sports federations across the world. And Nigeria was due $15,000. But while paying the money, a mistake was made, and instead of $15,000, $150,000 was paid to the AFN, the counterpart of IAF internationally. And Mr. Speaker, this has to do with our own pedigree, honesty, and integrity. These are the kind of conducts, Mr. Speaker, that will separate us and stand us out. That even where you find other African countries, the Nigerians will be singled out, even in the airports, for extra questioning and extra searches to be carried out. Mr. Speaker, this is going to impinge on our image. It is going to tarnish the image of this country if the House keeps quiet on what is going on in the AFN. And therefore, Mr. Speaker, I urge my colleagues to support this motion so that we can do a forensic audit and come out with the facts of who collected the $150,000, whose account it was paid into, and why it was not reported as at when the monies were paid. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, honorable colleagues.
Any contributor to the debate? Appears it's a straightforward motion, so I'm going to put the question. Those in favor of the motion say aye. Those against it say nay. Ayes have it. The next point of honor is from Honorable Tony Nwoye. Honorable Tony Nwoye.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Distinguished colleagues, my name is Dr. Tony Nwoye. I represent the people of Anambra East Anambra Federal Constituency. Mr. Speaker, I'm from Anambra State. Mr. Speaker, honorable colleagues, I appeal for you to invoke the order 8 Rule 4 to allow me to take this matter as urgent national importance and set aside our rule as enshrined in Order 8 Rule 7. I so move, Mr. Speaker.
But what's the matter on? We don't know. So we're not in a position to say if it's urgent or not.
Urgent need to deploy security personnel to stem the recurring crisis between the Ezeaglotu community of Anambra State and the Baji and other communities of Kogi State.
Honorable Yakub.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My name is Yakub Abiodun Balogun, representing the very industrious people of Lagos Island 2 Federal Constituency. I stand to support the first leg of the motion moved by my colleague. I do move.
Those in favor of the motion say aye. Those against it say nay. Ayes have it. Seconded to the second limb of the motion. Honorable Nam will be.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and my very distinguished colleagues. My name is Uju Chukwunamobi, and I represent the good people of Ahado West and Oba Ibemenjani Federal Constituency of River State. Mr. Speaker, I rise to second the second limb of the motion.
Those in favor of the motion say aye. Those against it say nay. The ayes have it. Honorable Tony, you can now move your motion. Who is the member that is coughing? I hope there's no ulterior motive to that.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for this opportunity, distinguished colleagues. The motion is a simple one, but very important. Urgent need to deploy security personnel to stem the recurring crisis between the Ezeaglotu Aguleri people and the Baji people in Kogi State. Mr. Speaker, distinguished colleagues, the House notes that these two communities have been involved in crisis over land disputes, as well as oil found in their land for several years, during which several lives were lost, many wounded, and properties worth billions of naira were destroyed. Informed that the communal crisis recurred recently, in fact, still ongoing for the past 4 days, leaving 4 persons with bullet wounds, over 15 farm settlements destroyed, houses vandalized, properties destroyed, and the economic activities disrupted. In fact, Mr. Speaker, particularly in communities in Onueke, Ubuoka, Igozi, Anovia, Ataja, Oluguenyi, and so on. Mr. Speaker, cognizant of the fact that Section 14, Paragraph 2 of the 1999 Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria provide that the security and welfare of our people should be the primary aim of any government, Mr. Speaker, with great emphasis, any government. Mr. Speaker, I urge the House to resolve that National Security Advisor, Chief of Defense Staff, the Chief of Army Staff, as well as the Inspector of Police should deploy security personnel urgently to Ezeaglotu and the Baji communities in order to restore peace and avoid further escalation of the crisis. Mr. Speaker, secondly, to mandate the committees on defense as well as police affairs to ensure proper implementation. I so move, Mr. Speaker.
Any seconder? Seconder, the Honorable Frederick, Acting Minority Leader.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker, Honorable colleagues. Agbedi Yechemine Frederick is my name. I represent Sabama Kirima Federal Constituency. In Zonkeme, I'm from Bayelsa State. I rise to second the motion assembly moved as your second, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable Tony, 2 minutes to argue your motion.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Honorable colleagues, Tony Ngoye still remain my name. Mr. Speaker, this motion is very important because of the premium we attach on the issue of lives and properties. Mr. Speaker, Ezeaglotu Aguleri and the Baji community in Kogi State have been involved in communal crisis over the issue of boundary disputes and the issue of oil discovered in their lands for some years ago. Mr. Speaker, worthy of note, it was stated that sometimes last year that there was a communal clash and lives of many properties were lost, lives were lost. In fact, security agency did not act swiftly the way they're supposed to act. And Mr. Speaker, there was a motion on this House which compared the security agencies to act anytime this type of issue occurred. But Mr. Speaker, unfortunately, that was not done by them. Mr. Speaker, as we are speaking now, there was a very big problem, or there's still a big problem there. In fact, casualties have risen as of this morning up to 9 casualties between the Kogi people and Aguleri people. Mr. Speaker, it is my humble opinion and my appeal that this House should consider this motion in order to avert further loss of properties and lives between the two communities. Over the issue of oil, Mr. Speaker, I strongly believe that no life of any Nigerian is worth being lost. That is why this motion is considered very apt. That is why this motion is considered so that security agencies can move swiftly and arrest the situation. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Any contributor to the motion? So I'll put the question. Those in favor of the motion say aye. Those against it say nay. Ayes have it. Honorable colleagues, first business of the day's presentation of 5 bills. The clerk is now invited to read the short titles.
Honorable Speaker, honorable members. Harmful Waste Special Criminal Provisions etc. Act Amendment Bill 2018, first reading. Federal Polytechnics Act Amendment Bill 2018, first reading. Dangerous Weapons Bill 2018, first reading. National Agency for Technology Management Bill 2018, first reading. Nigerian Textile Industry Trust Fund Bill 2018, first reading.
Honorable members, second business of the day is presentation of report of the ad hoc committee to investigate the production and distribution of drinks manufactured by the Nigeria Bottling Company Limited and other drinks produced or marketed in Nigeria. Standing in the name of Honorable Femi Bajabia Miller, Honorable Femi is now invited to present the report.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, honorable colleagues. May I rise to move for the presentation of the report of the ad hoc committee to investigate the production and distribution of drinks manufactured by the Nigerian Bottling Company Limited and other drinks produced or marketed in Nigeria. Mr. Speaker, I so move.
Any seconder? Honorable Dambaram Nuhu.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, my honorable colleagues. My name is Honorable Dambaram Abakar Nuhu, representing Kano Municipal, the only gentleman from the municipality, the whole of the Green Chambers. Mr. Speaker, I rise to second that we do receive the report of the ad hoc committee under the able leadership of the leader of the House. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, man.
Silence, please. Order.
Those in favor of the motion say aye. Those against it say nay. Ayes have it. Leader, please could you proceed and lay the report.
Honorable Chris Azubogu. Chris, please take your seat.
First order of the day, honorable colleagues, consolidation of 3 bills. Honorable members may wish to note the bills are on the same subject matter, and I invite the chairman, Committee on Rules and Business to move the bills be now consolidated.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Okay, Jeff. I represent the good people of Buruku. My dear colleagues, I'm from Benue State. I rise to move.
Order. Order, honorable members, please. Please.
My dear colleagues, I rise to move that the bill for an act to amend the Fiscal Responsibility Act 2007 to provide an expanded scope of borrowing power to the government, repeal and enact the Fiscal
Responsibility
please. To provide
please.
Ensure long-term macroeconomic stability of the national economy, secure greater accountability and transparency in fiscal operations within the medium-term fiscal policy framework, and the establishment of the fiscal responsibility.
Please, Chairman Appropriation, please, can you resume your seat and leave that place, please?
And enforcement of the nation's economic objectives and for related matters. A bill for an act to amend the Fiscal Responsibility Act 2007 to enhance the powers of the Commission in the performance of its function under the Act in the enforcement of remittance of revenues into the Consolidated Revenue Fund of the Federation, and to provide penalties
for violation of the provisions of the Act and for related matters. An appeal for an act to repeal the Fiscal Responsibility Act 2007 and to enact Fiscal Responsibility Bill to provide for establishment of the Fiscal Expansionary Commission
Honorable John Bull, please.
Economic growth through greater transparency and accountability in fiscal operations of government, increase government spending on infrastructure, budget process reform, and for related matters be consolidated as one bill. Mr. Speaker, my dear colleagues, I so move.
Seconder, Honorable Osai.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, distinguished honorable colleagues. I remain Honorable Osai Nicholas Osai. I represent local Plenary Federal Constituency of Delta State, Mr. Speaker. I rise to second the motion as moved by the most powerful chairman of business and rule. I so second.
Those in favor of the motion say aye. Those against it say nay. Ayes have it. Committee on Rules and Business, please schedule a date for the commencement of debate on the general principles of the bill. Second order of the day is commencement of debate on the general principles of the bill for an act to establish Chartered Institute of Directors of Nigeria to serve as regulatory body for persons serving as directors in both public and private sectors, determine the standards of knowledge and skills to be attained by persons seeking to become directors, to make provision for continuous training and development of the directors to ensure professionalism and promote corporate governance values by the directors and for related matters standing in the name of Honorable Osai Nicholas Osai and Honorable Garba Ibrahim Mohammed. Honorable members who recall that the bill was read the first time on Wednesday, 28 February 2018. I now invite Honorable Osai to move that the bill be now read the second time.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, distinguished honorable colleagues. I remain Honorable Osai Nicholas Osai. I represent local Plenary Federal Constituency of Delta State, Mr. Speaker. The bill for an act to establish Chartered Institute of Directors of Nigeria to serve as a regulatory body for persons serving as directors in both public and private sectors to determine the standards of knowledge and skills to be attained by persons seeking to become directors, to make provisions for continuous training and development of directors and to ensure professionalism and promote corporate governance, values by directors, and for related matter HB 1352 be read a second time. I so move.
Seconder, Honorable Frederick.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. Honorable colleagues, Agbedi Yetemna Frederick is my name. I represent Sabama Krema Federal Constituency. I'm from Bayelsa State. Mr. Speaker, honorable colleagues, I rise to second the motion that the bill be read a second time. I so second.
Honorable Osai, please lead the debate. Honorable Madaki. Honorable Aliu Madaki.
Please, Madaki, take your seat.
And stop arguing.
You have lost his vote already. Please, take your seat. You have lost his vote in Kano politics.
Whip, you can't turn the floor into Kano. This is no Kano State House of Assembly. So please. Honorable Madaki. We don't know. You will sort that one out in Kano, not on the floor of the House. Honorable Osai, please lead the debate.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, distinguished honorable colleagues. Honorable Madaki has just been decorated with the most courageous legislator of the year. So congratulate him.
Honorable Madaki, Honorable Osai said he's wearing the red cap on his behalf. Honorable Osai.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the Institute of Chartered Directors have been in existence for the past 35 years. Mr. Speaker, this body has existed over time. And this body has failed to interact with the international body, the two most powerful international bodies of this nature, due to the fact that no legal teeth has been given for their existence. I think that's why they are seeking for the National Assembly to provide that existence, the legal framework, to be able to make them act professionally and to be able to make also them to train professionally the directors of both private and public sector. Mr. Speaker, distinguished honorable colleagues, this bill, this issue has got no fund implication that is going to, be done to the federal government because one, the bill does not have any cost implication on the federal government. The institute has been in existence for many years for self-funding. The institute have been, funding themselves for the past 35 years, Mr. Speaker. The bill is also proposed to make the institute to acquire all the recognitions. The institute will acquire all the recognition that is necessary for them to interact with the international body. And Mr. Speaker, you agree with me, there are a lot of benefits. Other West Africans have been enjoying because those institutes were, legally, agreed that they should perform in a legal manner. But these institutes have been performing for 35 years, and they failed to be able to interact with the international body because they have not been given a legal teeth. Mr. Speaker, I think this what this bill tends to, correct. Now the issue is that what are the real objectives of this bill? Mr. Speaker, distinguished colleagues. One of the main objectives of this bill, Mr. Speaker, is to promote the practice of directorships in public and private sectors in a challenging and supportive environment. Secondly, to provide well-educated directors, specialists with critical thinking and creative problem-solving skills. Today, people are thinking outside the box. Corporate governance. That is what the order of the day today. And I believe, Mr. Speaker, in our private sector that we are finding it very difficult to connect. Mr. Speaker, this professionalism will be embedded in the private, in the public sector to be able to perform optimally in governance of our country. Sometimes, Mr. Speaker, we have passed a lot of laws, sometimes when we pass appropriation law. Mr. Speaker, because of lack of appropriate professionalism in the system, performance have gone below what is expected by the National Assembly. And thirdly, Mr. Speaker, this bill also prepare knowledgeable, that is, this tool will prepare knowledgeable skill, culturally competent, compassionate, and reflective specialist corporate governance practitioner. Mr. Speaker, this bill, if it's allowed to go to second reading and goes to the committee, it will prepare our directors very well. Mr. Speaker, they'll be recognized because laws has already recognized them. Fourthly, Mr. Speaker, is to promote high level of ethical standard. Mr. Speaker, sometimes you need ethical standard to operate very well. Today, Mr. Speaker, in our public sector, you find out that unethical things are going on every day by day. But when an institute have been legally provided, this professional aspect, the ethical aspects, just as when you have the law, Nigerian Bar Association. Mr. Speaker, Nigerian Bar Association was established by law, and they are self-funded. Mr. Speaker, the another issue is this. Today, the Bar Association sanctions those of them that have erred. Even those of them in the public and private sector, they do sanction them. Mr. Speaker, this body will be able to sanction its own when they are operating, whether in public or private sectors. Mr. Speaker, distinguished honorable colleagues, is to ensure that its members maintain reputable and high standard of conduct expected of professional practice. Mr. Speaker, when we are training people on corporate governance and on ethical standard, Mr. Speaker, those individuals will be able to perform professionally, in every aspect of whatever they are performing, whether in the public or private sectors. Mr. Speaker, distinguished honorable colleague, it's also to provide training. Mr. Speaker, this body have been providing training, but not recognized. Mr. Speaker, this body is seeking to achieve is to be recognized by law, so that they can also provide training for the West African countries. They can also provide training for people all over the world. Mr. Speaker, if people coming from America is coming here to come and be trained by this professional body, it has to be recognized by law. If not, they won't have the chance of being able to import the expertise which they have to the outside world. Mr. Speaker, this is what this bill is seeking to achieve. But most importantly, which the National Assembly are going to look into, is the area I have talked about funding. Bringing it back is the cost implication. Mr. Speaker, one, I said that the bill does not have any cost implication on the federal government. The institute has been in existence for 35 years, self-funding itself.
Honorable John there.
This
John
institute
there, please.
will not derive any fund from federal government. They will not derive any fund from federal government, because if you look at the law, there's no provision where they can derive any fund from the federal government. Except at the time when they have performed professionally very well, the house field or the government field, they can give them grants. Just like any other thing, the government gives grants so as to improve professionalism in this system. So that our civil servants have been performing. But sometimes we say they lack corporate governance. It is this institute that will train them to that aspect. Mr. Speaker, distinguished honorable colleague, I urge all of you to support this bill with the speed of light it requires. I rest my case.
Any contributor to the debate? Rules and business, then Honorable Buba Yakub.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Okay, Jeff. I represent the good people of Buruku, my dear colleagues. I'm from Plenary State. Mr. Speaker, this is a good day. Mr. Speaker, those of us who are Christians in the hall who know the story of Saul, who turned into Paul later. When this bill came on the floor of the House, in the last session, I remember that Honorable Sai was one of those who vehemently and successfully opposed the second reading of the bill. Honorable Sai has gone back and read on this bill and has changed from Saul to Paul today. I'm very, very happy that he has seen the light. Mr. Speaker, he has eloquently highlighted the benefits of passing this bill. But let me start with the basis on which this bill was defeated the other time, that it was going to cost the government some money. He has clearly brought out the fact that it's not going to cost a dime to the government. I'm not a fan of chartering, because every day we have a bill here to charter this or that. But this is one charter we must do, my dear colleagues. Because as has been highlighted by Honorable Sai in his argument, there's a body known as the Global Network of Directors Institute. Now, the Nigerian counterpart has tried unsuccessfully over time. Having been in existence for 35 years, they have tried to be part of that world body, but have been refused membership because the Nigerian Institute has not been backed by law. So all we need to do here, in order to be counted, because we always talk about global-based standards, here is a beautiful opportunity to put that into practice, to encourage the Institute to attain global-based practices and standards. All we need to do is to allow this bill to be passed into second reading, so that when it is passed ultimately as an act of the National Assembly, we would have allowed those who have chosen to be directors as a profession to associate themselves with other such world bodies. Thank you, my dear colleagues, for listening to me.
Honorable Yakub, except the Honorable Osai, you didn't tell us what happened to you on your road to Damascus, why you converted from Saul to Paul. No, I'm not asking you to say it. Honorable Buba, we missed the phone.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm Yusuf Buba Yakub. I represent Gombe Home Federal Constituency from Adamawa State. Mr. Speaker, I want to first of all commend the mover of this very important bill, because this bill will achieve a lot in increasing the value or putting more value to our directors, both in the public and in the private sectors. Mr. Speaker, this institute has been in existence since 1993, that is 35 years ago, and it has been self-funded, and the institute have been doing very well, but the only problem is that it is not backed by law. And once it is backed by law, it will open up the institute to have collaboration with other international bodies of similar standing. So, Mr. Speaker, Most importantly, the mover of this bill has categorically stated that the institute will not depend on the federal government for funding because they have been funding themselves for the past 35 years and it has been doing very well. So I want to support this motion and call on my distinguished honorable colleagues to support the mover of the bill so that it will see the light of the day. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable Betty Apiafi.
Mr. Speaker, honorable colleagues, my name is Betty Apiafi. I represent Abua Odual Lahuda East Federal Constituency. I'm from Rivers State. Mr. Speaker, I listened carefully when Honorable Osai was making a presentation as to this bill, and I've also listened to my other colleagues who have made contributions. And I asked myself a question. Why the Institute of Directors? Is directorship a profession? And my answer will be no. There's no profession known as directors. I know that people who are directors of companies are either professionals in their various fields or attain the position of directors in their place of work. And Mr. Speaker, I mean, they've talked about that if you become a director, you will understand critical thinking, you will have training. In your various professions, as a director, there are institutions that provide training for various levels we have attained in organizations for you to go and learn. And then, of course, there's online learning. I'll get a bit worried as to the number of institutes we are passing in this house. And even if we keep telling ourselves that there is no financial implication to these associations, I can tell you that looking at the national budget, you will see most of them appearing in the budget where various MDAs are making budgetary provisions for them. So it's something that we really need to look at critically, because eventually when they get the laws passed, the next thing they will do is to go and start looking for funding from the MDAs. And I think the challenges we're having in the country today is not lack of institutions to train people, but I mean, if we want to be current and if directors really want to improve themselves, they should go online and study. We have the Open University, we have universities all over the place. They should go and study and know what they need to do to improve themselves, but not to form an institute. The next thing, they start collecting levies and levying everybody to compelling people to belong to their associations and collecting monies from them. And in most cases, they provide substandard training. Training that is not supervised by anybody, training that is not regulated by anybody. We need to really ask ourselves questions as to how we keep passing bills, supporting all these various organizations that come to this house every time. Mr. Speaker, having said that, I would like to say that this bill, when it goes to second reading, it should just stay in the cooler. Thank you very much.
Honorable Yakub.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, for yielding the floor to me. My name is Yakub Abiodun Balogun, representing the very industrious people of Lagos Island 2 Federal Constituency. I am from Lagos State. I stand with all fear of the Almighty God to oppose this bill, particularly the public service aspect of it, in the sense that having served as head of service for 5 years and having gone through the civil service for 33 years, I strongly believe that this aspect of us allowing this bill to fly will be injurious to the public service. Because according to the bill, it is said that the institute, the Chartered Institute, is expected to serve as a regulatory body for persons serving as directors, And it went further in both public and private sector. It went further that the institute would determine the standards of knowledge and skills to be obtained by persons seeking to be directors. In the civil service, there is what we call the scheme of service. And there are so many directors. There are some directors in the engineering department, directorship is just a designation. Directors in the Ministry of Health, directors in the administration, it is only those in the administration that require uniform experience to be able to be posted here and there. So to now have a body that will be dictating to a ministry that before you can promote somebody as a director, the person must be certified by the institute, I think is very, very wrong. And I want to say that on that basis, I don't know much of the private sector, but in the public service where I served for 33 years, I want to say that it is not going to fly among the public servants because they have their scheme of service as to who will become directors and other things like that. Thank you very much.
I think we can't even go on with the debate because we are caught by our rules. My attention has been drawn to the fact that this bill was considered in the pendency of this session. It was only negative till June of 2017. So it's a bit premature, really. So, Chairman, rules and business.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. In the light of that information, may I humbly move that we step down the debate on the second reading of this bill. I so move.
The second order on the other paper stepped down by leave of the House. So, Honorable Osai, you just have to wait until the period of time matures within which you can now be represented. It was negative till June 2017. That by our rules you can't raise it now. No, it wasn't last June. 2017 wasn't last session. The third order of the day is commencement of debate on the general principles of bill for an act to make assets declaration, assets declared by public officers, accessible to public in order to give effect to provisions of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria 1999 and for related matters, standing in the name of Honorable Aziz Babajide Akinloye. Honorable members who recall that the bill was read the first time on Wednesday, 5th July 2017. Now I invite Honorable Akinloye to move the bill be now read second time.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My name is Aziz Babajide Akinloye. I represent Etiosa Federal Constituency. I'm from Lagos State. Mr. Speaker, honorable colleagues, I seek your valued support to move that a bill to an act to make the asset declared by public officers accessible to the public in order to give effect to the provision of the Constitution of Federal Republic of Nigeria 1999 as amended. Be read a second time as so moved.
Any seconder? Nobody's willing to second the bill. Okay, Honorable Jega.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, my honorable colleagues. My name is Mohammed Umar Jega, representing Aleru Gondo Jega Federal Constituency of Kebbi State. I rise to second the motion, heavily moved by my honorable colleagues. I so second. Thank you.
Honorable Akinloye, please lead the debate.
Thank you once again, Mr. Speaker. Honorable Speaker, my colleagues, the Access to Public Officers Asset Declaration Bill 2007 is a legislative proposal aimed at strengthening Nigeria's anti-corruption legal framework by allowing Nigerians to hold public officers accountable through access to asset declarations. Paragraph 3C of Part 1 of the third schedule of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria 1999 as amended saddles the National Assembly with the specific duty of prescribing the terms and conditions upon which Nigerians can access asset declaration of public officers. The bills contain 17 clauses. The twin pillars of anti-corruption ethics are transparency and accountability. Both pillars are mutually reinforcing in the sense that opening the affairs of public officers to public scrutiny has the effect of encouraging officers to aspire to self-censorship and providing the public with the information to hold officials accountable. The United Nations Convention Against Corruption 2003 requires state parties to the convention to consider establishing policies requiring officials to reveal to appropriate authorities their outside activities, employment, investment, assets, and substantial gifts or benefits. Article 8 UNCAC. Nigeria is not only a state party to the convention, but Nigeria was one of the countries that pushed for the adoption of the convention. In the last 4 decades, this knowledge has spurred advocacy for the institution of access to information and anti-impunity system. Nigeria established a system of asset declaration by public officers in 1979 and enacted the Code of Conduct Bureau and Tribunal Act 1989. A significant portion of the Act is now enshrined in the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, 1999. In 2011, the National Assembly enacted the Freedom of Information Act, 2010. The Code of Conduct Bureau and Tribunal requires all public officers, both appointed and elected, to periodically declare their assets in the form prescribed by the Code of Conduct Bureau. Since 1999, when the Code of Conduct commenced its operations, it has received over 7 million of assets declared. One of the ways the people of Nigeria can hold their elected and appointed officers accountable is by monitoring their asset acquisition with public funds or the abuse of office. This will go a long way in helping to curb corruption. The Nigerian Constitution recognizes this principle of holding public officers accountable and has made provisions to enable members of the public access to the asset declaration of public officers. Paragraph 3C of Part C of the 3rd Schedule of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria 1999 provides for the right of public access to asset declaration subject to a term and conditions to be stipulated by the National Assembly. The Bureau shall have power to C. Retain custody of such declaration and make them available for inspection by any citizen of Nigeria on such terms and conditions as the National Assembly may prescribe. However, the National Assembly is yet to enact the necessary laws to give life to the constitutional provision to assess the asset declaration. The terms and conditions to be prescribed by National Assembly for public officers to asset declared by public officers shall seek to guarantee access while protecting public officers from abuse of such information. Particularly, it is important to devise a framework which will take into cognizance the security of public officers and third parties who are related to them. Honorable Speaker, my colleagues, the bill seeks to address and give effect to the provision of paragraph 3C of Part 1 of the 3rd Schedule to the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria as amended. there will always be debate over whether the right of individual public officers outweigh the interest of the public to such disclosure for the purpose of accountability. Section 33 of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria 1999 as amended guarantees the right to privacy for all persons. However, Section 45 of the same Constitution subjects the right to privacy to a higher interest of order and
silence, please.
But in the spirit of the Constitution, the legislature must seek to strike a balance between the private right and public interest. The current bill makes proposal for balancing this right and interest. Section 3 of the bill provides for access by members of the public, subject to clearly set out procedures, while Section 5 provides for prejudicial information, including residential addresses and information on minors, shall be protected by redactions in the record made available for inspections. Another concern that could be raised is that of security of public officers. Where details of the residential addresses and vehicle registration numbers are published, legitimate fear for the security of the affected officers, public officers, will arise, especially in the context of kidnapping for ransom, robbery, or assassination. However, this risk can be mitigated by the control of what information can be released, how and on what conditions. The present bill in Section 5 seeks to restrict the details of information that can be accessed, and in Section 8 to 11 prohibits the unlawful usage and publication of information obtained with criminal sanctions. To implement the access to public officers asset declaration bill, when passed into law, a government department will be required to administer its provisions. These administrative functions will include receiving applications from members of the public wishing to inspect asset declaration form, making decisions on application and making available such forms for inspection. The government of Nigeria established the Code of Conduct in 1989. It is a fully functional government department with over 4,000 members of staff in its Abuja headquarters and its state offices across the country. The Code of Conduct is already being funded by government, and one of its constitutional duties is to retain custody of such declaration and make them available for inspection by the citizens of Nigeria. Paragraph 3C of Part 1 of the 3rd Schedule to the Constitution of the Federal Republic as amended. In view of this, no further capital or recurrent expenditure over and above what is available is being allocated to the Code of Conduct is required for the implementation of the bill when it is passed. Thank you, sir.
Honorable colleagues, can we have some order, please? We'll take those who are speaking for the motion first, in line with the provision of it's a bill. So bill, anyone can speak, really. So,
silence, please.
Honorable
Silence.
Zakari.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My name is Zakari Mohammed. I represent Barutin Kayama Federal Constituency, Mr. Speaker. I'm from Kwara State. Mr. Speaker, I want to start on this premise. Honorable Kilo is my very good friend and brother. But I want to say that we shouldn't ask for what we already have. The FOI has taken care of us. The CCT Act has taken care of it, and they are all enactments of this House. So, sir, I'm constrained to say that my honorable colleague can maybe have a rethink about this bill, because already the laws that exist take care of it. I don't think there's anybody. All our declarations that we do are public documents.
and you can ask for them. And if you ask for them and you are not given, the law has taken care of it. So I'm sure that rather than this will amount to superfluity, and I would just urge that my honorable colleagues join me in asking Honorable Kiloye to at least have a rethink about this bill. That's my submission, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable Bonta.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, honorable colleagues. My name is Uzoma Abonta, Mr. Speaker. I represent the people of Okwa East West of Abia State. Mr. Speaker, members should listen to another in silence. Mr. Speaker, I find it difficult to discover the ill this bill seems to cure. I find it difficult to come at a page with the ills this bill seeks to cure or the lacuna this bill seeks to breach. My leader, as I said, I find it very difficult to discover the ills this bill seeks to cure or the lacuna this bill seeks to breach. Mr. Speaker, every bill should propose to introduce or to cure existing ills or to breach a lacuna. This bill will bring more ills if allowed to go. The author of this bill quoted copiously from United Nations Convention Against Corruption, which Nigeria signed, which Nigeria canvassed, which Nigeria made mandatory. But that said that it requires that officials to reveal to appropriate authorities, that's what he said, to reveal to appropriate authorities, which is existing. Mr. Speaker, everybody's declaration is already in the public domain, provided you ignite the actions to get it, like the Freedom of Information Bill. Is the author of this bill suggesting that we should take all our declaration and put somewhere in Lucent market so that marketers will access it? No. I think that this bill, if allowed to go, will be duplicating existing things specifically. What is he asking? Allowing the public opportunity to have declaration of officers. Nobody is stopping declaration from being known. If you allow this bill, Mr. Speaker, or if it becomes a law, it means that privacy of officers will be impugned. Mr. Speaker, public officers had something private before they became public and after they were public. Everybody also needs some form of protection. I think that the essence of Freedom of Information Bill is and state your reasons for the information. And you will be obliged. There is a mechanism already in place for you to access any document you want using the appropriate whatever. But my colleague is asking us to liberalize and let it loose. I agree. He also cited the right to privacy in his argument, and also cited 46 as contradicting that. No, 46 did not contradict that, but reinforced that you must have certain things on ground before one can come. Therefore, I think that this bill,
honorable colleagues,
should be stepped down. Because in compliance with the Constitution, National Assembly had already prescribed a law, prescribed the ways and means to do what it's asking us to do again. That ways and means is Freedom of Information Bill, Act. Therefore, it will be superfluous, to be overreaching, it will be writing double law, it will be having duplications in our statute books if we allow this to go.
I should think that he should step it down and do more legislative work in it, so that we do not end up bringing issues, bringing laws that will compound problem. For crying out loud, it is not a crime to be a public officer. It's not an offense. It's not a sin to be a public officer. It's a sin if you use the office to overreach. That does not mean all public officers should now have the access declaration in Wuse market or Gwegwala market because the public wants to reach it. No. I think that the UN Convention, United Nations says, do declaration in appropriate authority. And I think the appropriate authority for Nigeria, as we mentioned, is the Code of Conduct Bureau. That declares we all domicile our declaration. Anybody who wants to see it should apply to them and state what you want, and they will apply to you, rather than not to create another way. So I do not think we should go on. Therefore, I sincerely and strongly appeal to my colleague that I appreciate his effort in fighting corruption. I appreciate his sincerity that we have a corrupt-free society. I can see his mind, but I will kindly advise that the bill be stepped down for more legislative work, so we can all look at it inwardly and come out with a better solution. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable colleagues, the contention of Honorable Zachary is that there's enough legislation that covers the field, and embarking on this journey is like carrying a call to Newcastle. And I wanted to have said that there's no mischief that the bill seeks to cure. Any other voice? Honorable Pajok.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, Honorable colleagues. Mr. Speaker, my name is Edward Pajok. I represent Just South, Just East. Mr. Speaker, may I add to this very disturbing bill? May I add to what Honorable Zachary and Honorable Abonta said? Mr. Speaker, going through the bill, the written brief by the sponsor, he said there are constitutional protections, and he said that there will be control of information so that it does not jeopardize those who would have declared their assets. But Mr. Speaker, is that not a contradiction? How do you now control the information when, as of now, the law, which is in the Constitution, has already said you declare your asset bureau? Mr. Speaker, may I further add that Section 6 of the ESC Act gives them the power to liaise with even the Code of Conduct Bureau and other security agencies to get information. And when information is enforced, they may even charge you to court. Whether it is ICPC, whether it is police, whether it is DSS, they always collaborate with the Code of Conduct Bureau. So, Mr. Speaker, to now say, let's get all this information out in the public domain. In Nigeria of today, we are going to set ourselves up into so much trouble. At the end of the day, as a matter of fact, we may not be able to cope with the issues. Mr. Speaker, let me further add that in the last constitutional alteration exercise that we did, we have expanded the scope of the Code of Conduct Tribunal. We have decentralized it. It has passed both the Senate, it has passed the House of Reps, it has even gone to the House of Assembly. If it is passed, it means that you now have a more effective Code of Conduct Bureau and Code of Conduct No Tribunal. So if, as of today, the argument may be, even though you have not even made that argument, that the Code of Conduct Tribunal has so much work, but when this amendment goes through, then it means that all the plethora of cases that they have will be well taken care of. It means that it will be more effective. Mr. Speaker, we should be very careful, because he is saying that the National Assembly may prescribe all other laws in order to make the information given accessible to all Nigerians. Mr. Speaker, that's why we have the Freedom of Information Act. Anybody who feels that any information is not accessible to him, apply to, using the Freedom of Information Act to get that information. But to say we should now enact another law, Mr. Speaker, I think it's a very dangerous law. It will be used mischievously, and all of us, in fact, we here in Parliament will be the very first victims of that law, because we know what happens in Nigeria. Mr. Speaker, lastly, Lastly, let me cite the 5th schedule to the Constitution, which talks about the Code of Conduct, the Bureau, and Tribunal. It says that anybody can, if you find that the assets of anybody who has declared them were not fairly acquired, that they can be investigated. It means the Code of Conduct Bureau or EFCC can also investigate when they have that information. But you say members of the public can
honorable colleagues.
What means, what technical ability do they have to determine whether you have unfairly or fairly acquired any extra income or properties? So, Mr. Speaker, I also agree that this bill does not have any redeeming feature. Therefore, it is either step down or we do the needful. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Okay, I wasn't going to take Honorable Zachary serious because I thought that he didn't want us to know about the 10 skinny he-goats that he has. He promised me one he has failed to deliver. Honorable Jide.
Mr. Speaker, the whole essence of fighting corruption is to be transparent. However, I can read the mood of the House and I wish to step it down. Thank you, sir.
So, bill stepped down by leave of the House. We move on, honorable colleagues. 4th order of the day is motion on need for construction of road to link communities in Jigawa, Bauchi, and Kano states, standing the name of Honorable Salisu Zachary Ningi. Honorable Ningi is now invited to move the motion.
Order, honorable colleagues, order.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My honorable colleagues, I thank you very much for giving me this opportunity, Mr. Speaker, to present this all-important motion that if implemented by the federal government, Mr. Speaker, it will definitely improve the life of millions of Nigerians. I said millions of Nigerians, Mr. Speaker, because where I came from, Ningi local government area represent the 3rd most populated local government area in the whole of the Northeast. After Maiduguri local government area that came first, Bauchi local government area came second, Ningi became 3rd, ahead of Damatru of Yobe State, Gombe of Gombe State, Yola of Adamawa, and Jalingo of Taraba. Mr. Speaker, with your indulgence, I need to move this motion, which is related to construction of a road that links several communities of Jigawa State, Bauchi State, and Kano State. The House notes that the need to construct these all-important capital projects that link several communities of Gwaram in Jigawa State with Warji, Dallaji, Tudunwada, Nasaru, Balma, Masusuka, Kafin Lemo, Bauchi State, to Sumaila Road in Kano State is paramount, Mr. Speaker, and imperative. Be informed that the road has for a long time remained untarred and therefore unmotorable, which causes transit, fatigue, hardship, danger, and also exposes commuters to accidents due to the bad state of the road. And also, Mr. Speaker, the exchange of goods and services among these communities had been drifted apart. Mr. Speaker, we are aware that the economic importance of the road to local traders and farmers who ply the road to make ends meet. Also be informed that the deplorable condition of the road makes it very easy for kidnappers and armed robbers to carry out their operations freely and then run into their hideouts in the bush along its stretch. Cognizant that the construction of the road will greatly ease the transportation difficulties currently being experienced by the people and reduce incidents of kidnapping and armed robbery that thrive as a result of the bad state of the road. The House is resolved, sir, urge the Federal Ministry of Power, Works and Housing to embark upon construction of the road from Gwaran in Jigawa State to Warji, Dallaji, Tudun Wada, Nasaru, Balma, Masusuka, Kafil Lemo of Bauchi State to Sumaila Road in Kano State. 2. Mandate the committees of works, appropriations, and legislative compliance to ensure that the construction of the road is included in the 2018 budget proposal. I so move, sir. Thank you.
Honorable Trubunde.
Mr. Speaker, honorable members, I do second the motion presented by my colleagues, my neighbor also, on the construction of road to link communication in Jigawa, Bauchi, and Kano State. I so second, Mr. Speaker.
This motion on the provision of infrastructure, and I put the question. Those in favor of the motion say aye. Those against it say nay. Ayes have it. Sixth order of the day, no, the fifth order of the day, honorable colleagues, on the need to investigate the untoward activities going on in various internally displaced persons, IDPs, camps in Nigeria, standing in the name of Honorable Hassan Saleh. Honorable Hassan Saleh is now invited to move the motion.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, honorable colleagues. My name is Hassan Saleh. I represent the people of Adro, Ogbanibo, of Okufara constituency. Mr. Speaker, I am from Benue. Mr. Speaker, this motion has to do with the need to investigate the untoward activities going on in the IDP camps across Nigeria. Mr. Speaker, the House notes with concern the publications in the nation's newspapers in December or on December 17th on how the internally displaced persons camps in Nigeria are poorly managed. The House further notes that there are several IDP camps all over the country due to the continuous invasion by Boko Haram, which has led to displacement of many innocent citizens from their communities. The House is worried that there are a lot of stories in our national dailies, including the New York Times, of the harrowing experiences of rape committed against women and girls by men in the camps, especially those who are supposed to be protecting them. The House is aware, the House is further worried that the stories are the same in all the camps across the country, namely rape, sex for food and materials, rampant pregnancy and abandonment of young mothers and their children. There are also cases of pilfering of relief materials and extortion ravaging the camps. The House is aware that Human Rights Watch had reportedly written to various government agencies requesting comment on the various allegations emanating from all the camps, but has not received any response. Speaker, the House is further aware that the National Emergency Management Agency is mandated under the National Emergency Management Act to provide emergency relief to victims of natural or other disasters and to assist in their rehabilitation. But NEMA and the refugee commissions, which have expanded mandate for IDPs, are unable to cope with the level of displacement. The House is concerned that the effort of government concerning the care and protection of the IDPs is not enough. Hence, the need for government to do more to protect them. The House resolves, Mr. Speaker,
to mandate the Committee on IDPs, Refugees and Initiatives on Northeast to investigate the rampant cases of rape, teenage pregnancy, extortion and stealing of relief materials in internally displaced persons camp across Nigeria and report back within 8 weeks. Mr. Speaker, honorable colleagues, I so move.
Honorable Prestigious. Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker, distinguished honorable colleagues. Honorable Prestigious, member representing Aba North, Aba South Federal Constituency, and from Abia State. I rise to second this motion, ably moved by my colleague. I so second, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable Hassan Saleh, please lead. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, honorable colleagues. Hassan Saleh once more from Plenary. Mr. Speaker, this motion came as a result of various publications that have come across over the past 2 to 3 months. Mr. Speaker, there is an editorial by the Nation's newspaper dated the 17th of December that analyzed and actually gave the details of the way and manner the security agencies and other officials in the various IDP camps in the country has been treating the innocent and unsuspecting internally displaced persons. Mr. Speaker, the essence of the security agencies in this camp is essentially to protect the already vulnerable people that are in these camps. But there has been a lot of reports coming out of these camps, which to me, and I believe by extension to members of this hallowed chamber, that it is not good for these security agencies to continue in that manner. In a situation whereby young girls that are already vulnerable, that ran away from their various homes or communities for fear of being killed or harmed, run into safety in these camps to be molested, to be raped. As a matter of fact, some of them have contracted AIDS or HIV. So, for us, to me, I believe this is wickedness on the part of those officials. And again, Mr. Speaker, honorable colleagues, there have been several reports that even the relief materials that have been extended to them, at least to live life, to get some kind of succor, don't even get to them. And I believe that there is the need for this matter to be investigated, because it does not speak well of our country. It then means that all the efforts by government in trying to secure these people, over 2.5 million, refugees all across the 13 IDP camps across in the Northeast, is a waste of time. Because how can you, for God's sake, if a 15 or 16-year-old girl, how can such person be raped, by over 20 men? These are informations that have gone across our shores to the extent that the New York Times wrote in their editorial. Mr. Speaker, honorable colleagues, if we do not do anything about this, it will further reduce the image of this country. And I believe that this House has the power, we have that authority to investigate this matter, and that those that are involved, if those children or those people in the IDP camps can point fingers, those that are involved should be brought to book to serve as a deterrent to other members of the security forces that are manning these camps. Mr. Speaker, that is the debate of this motion, and I crave the indulgence of this House to support this motion so that the relevant committee can do their work expeditiously and come back to this House. I so submit, Mr. Speaker. Honorable Patigi.
Mr. Speaker, my colleagues, this is a straightforward motion, one that attends to
give support to the committee, the relevant committee of the House in charge of IDPs, to carry out its mandates and investigate the atrocities against the vulnerable within our midst. I want to call on our colleagues to support it. The mover has extensively given us the background and the things that are wrong with our IDPs and those that are within it. So my colleagues, I just rise to say we support it and ask that the relevant committee of the IDPs, which I'm a member of, do a proper investigation and equally, the 8 weeks that is allotted for this purpose, I think is sufficient. I so support.
So the matter is investigative, and I'll put a question. Those in favor of the motion say aye. Those against it say nay. Ayes have it. Sixth order of the day is a motion on urgent need to carry out a comprehensive audit of all revenues accruable to the Federal Capital Territory Administration, FCTA, through the Abuja Investment Company Limited, its subsidiaries and affiliates in terms of revenue, and also the alleged abuse of due process in the last 10 years, 2007-2017, standing in the name of Honorable Prestige Osi. Honorable Osi is now invited to move the motion.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. Thank you, distinguished honorable colleagues. I am Honorable Prestige Osi, member representing Abanot, Abasa Federal Constituency. I am from Abia State. Mr. Speaker and honorable colleagues, my motion is on the urgent need to conduct a comprehensive audit of all revenues accruable to the Federal Capital Territory Administration, FCTA, through the Abuja Investment Company Limited, its subsidiaries and affiliates, and also alleged abuse of due process in the last 10 years. The House notes that the Abuja Investment Company Limited was incorporated in 1994 as Abuja Investment and Property Development Company. Also notes that AICL is wholly owned by the Federal Capital Territory Administration, FCTA, with a vision to build capacity in public-private partnership administration and asset management for sustainable development. Further notes that the Abuja Investment Company Limited oversees the Abuja Markets Management Limited, Abuja Urban Mass Transport Company Limited, Abuja Property and Development Limited, Abuja Technology Village, and Abuja Film Village International. Aware that FCTA controls various stakes in various affiliates of the Abuja Investment Company Limited, which includes the Abuja Leasing Company Limited, the Abuja Connect Limited, Power North AICL Equipment Leasing Limited, the Abuja Power Company Limited, the ASO Properties and Investment Management Limited, ASO Savings and Loans Limited, among others. Informed that as a result of the abuse of due process by the Abuja Markets Limited and other subsidiaries, the AICL signed a facility management agreement which has been consistently disregarded to the detriment of the federal government. Also informed that one of the subsidiaries of the Abuja Urban Mass Transport Company Limited receives 40 million naira monthly as subsidy to augment its operations, which, according to findings, is unnecessary if the organization is effectively managed. Concerned that about 1 billion naira, which is expended annually on diesel and appropriated for, is a source of embezzlement being perpetrated by a few individuals at the expense of the country. Also concerned that in spite of the capital invested by the federal government to establish the Abuja Investment Company Limited, its subsidiaries and affiliates have become a source of revenue leakage and fraud running into billions of naira. Mr. Speaker, worried that efforts by the new management of AICL to sanitize the activities of its subsidiaries are being frustrated as laid down agreements are blatantly disregarded.
resolve to mandate the Committee on FCT to carry out an extensive audit of all contract agreements entered into between the Abuja Investment Company Limited and its subsidiaries, affiliates, and revenues agreeable from the contract, as well as remittances made to date and losses, if any. Investigate the immediate and remote causes of breach of due process and report back within 4 weeks for further legislative action. I so move, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable Akin.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. Distinguished colleagues, I remain Adekunle Abdulkabir Akelade, member representing Egbado South, Ipokia Federal Constituency of the State. Mr. Speaker, I rise to second the motion assembly moved by my colleague, Honorable Prestige OC. I so move. Thank you, sir.
Honorable OC, please lead the debate.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker, distinguished honorable colleagues. Mr. Speaker, it's all about abuse of process. The motion is a very straightforward one, that Abuja Investment Company Limited has so many subsidiaries, and these subsidiaries are supposed to stand on their own. The agreement between them is that while they are into public-private partnership, is to make profit and grow those companies, those affiliates. But, Mr. Speaker, it is an irony that instead of these companies making profit for themselves, growing those companies and expanding them, it has turned out to be a conduit mine for those subsidiaries to be making the public purse dry. Mr. Speaker, it is on note that ₦1 billion is expended to buy diesel, which is an appropriation from FCT account, into some of these subsidiaries, just to buy diesel. As against these companies generating money that will see themselves through their expenses. A case in point, Mr. Speaker, is that of the London Transport Company, which has those red buses in the UK. Those companies, Mr. Speaker, some years back, declared profits worth billions of pounds as against losses that were experiencing here in our own bus companies. It is on this note, Mr. Speaker, that there is needs, absolute needs for that matter, Mr. Speaker, for us to have a comprehensive audit of all the affiliates of these companies so as to enable us to cop this particular avenue through which these funds have been siphoned all these years, and then correct in a manner that these companies will be able to make profit to the benefit of this country. I so move, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable Gaza.
Right Honorable Speaker, honorable colleagues, my name is Gaza Jonathan Bethy, and I represent the people of Karu, Kefi, Kokona Federal Constituency. Right Honorable Speaker, honorable colleagues, it is nostalgia and mixed feelings that I rise to support this motion. I remember as a young man, when I would commute from Mina to the FCT, I looked forward to entering the Abuja Mass Urban Transit. Why? Because then new buses had been purchased and it was very affordable. But it's so sad that even within my lifetime, all efforts with regards to sustaining this golden idea has been met with administrative and whatever may be the case, which I would not want to allege at this present moment for the fact that this is more of an investigative motion. Right Honorable Speaker, billions of naira, and I make bold to say dollars, have been invested in ameliorating the standards of living of people in the FCT through various means and organizations like those listed here. For instance, let's look at ASO savings, a golden idea. Even during the sale of federal government properties, it was one of the star institutions that was mandated to give out mortgages with a lot of intervention from the federal government. But what is the fate of ASO savings today? Right Honourable Speaker, as a responsible house, there is indeed cause for concern and cause for us to look into it. Look at the Abuja leasing company, for instance. You will see their property in the central area lying fallow, underutilized. And I wonder why. Indeed, because public funds have been pumped into these organizations. I want to say and note in strong terms that one of the greatest problems in our country is the fact that we are too used to the ownership syndrome. If it does not belong to me, I will not manage it properly. And a manifestation of this is the sale of federal government houses. These properties, when they belonged to the government, were deteriorated. Abuja was fast becoming a slum. But as soon as these places were sold, these places were transformed, and we now have Abuja looking like Hollywood. Now, these organizations are still in government hands. Until we take a concerted effort to make sure that we actually monitor and oversight the running and auditing of these accounts, and proper account, and those that have in any way, and those that have in one way or the other fronted the law or abused their offices, they be brought to book. Right Honourable Speaker, will just be embarking on exercising futility. To this end, I want to commend the mover of this motion. It's very wonderful, very timely, especially at a point in time when we're just coming out of a recession, and every kobo needs to be accounted for. That with the speed of light, like in the words of Honorable Osai, this motion be passed and the necessary relevant committees be put to work to make sure that this thing is nipped in the bud. Thank you very much, Right Honourable Speaker.
Any more contribution to the debate? So it's investigative, and I'll put a question. Those in favor of the motion say aye. Those against it say nay. The ayes have it. Seventh order of the day is a motion on need for the National Directorate of Employment, NDA, to commence work on the proposed Skills Acquisition Center in Ajeromi, Ifelodun Federal Constituency of Lagos State. Standing in the name of Honorable Rita Oji. Honorable Oji is now invited to move the motion.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, distinguished colleagues. My name is Rita Oji, member representing Ajeromi, fellow of the Federal Constituency from Lagos State. Mr. Speaker and dear colleagues, I rise to move the motion on urgent need for the National Directorate of Employment to commence work on the proposed Skill Acquisition Center in Ajeromi, fellow of the Federal Constituency of Lagos State. The House knows that Ajeromi Federal Constituency is densely populated with an adult population of 2.6 million adults as captured in 2006 census exercise. The House also notes that the entire Southwest geopolitical zone has not had the modern Skill Acquisition Center as was given to different zones to train and make the use of the area to be self-reliant and independent. The House further knows that the Honorable Minister of Labour and Productivity, Dr. Chris Ige, had mandated the National Directorate of Employment to undertake the construction of the Skill Acquisition Center across the zone. The House is informed that in a bid to ensure the construction of this Skill Acquisition Center in Ajeromi, fellow of the Federal Constituency, a parcel of land measuring about 3.4 hectares was provided for the National Directorate of Employment. An approval was given by the same Honorable Minister since the year 2017. But the NDE had not complied due to bureaucratic bottlenecks. The House is aware that providing a skill acquisition center for this constituency will reduce the menace of jobless youth, commonly referred to as area boys, harness their enormous potentials and enable them to become self-reliant with a view of generating a pool of indigenous and trained manpower sufficient to meet the needs of the private and public sectors in the entire constituency and beyond. The House resolved, mandate the Committee on Labour and Productivity to interface with the Honourable Minister of Labour and Employment and the Director General of NDE to ascertain the reasons for the delay of the project in Ajeromi Fellow, the Federal Constituency, with a view of ensuring its early commencement. 2, that the House mandate the Committee on Appropriation and Legislative Compliance to ascertain that the project is carried out. I so move, Mr. Speaker and distinguished colleagues.
Honorable Marriott.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, my dear colleagues. Solomon Marriott is my name, and I represent the good people of Mangu-Bokos Federal Constituency. I am from Plateau State. Mr. Speaker, I rise to second the motion heavily moved by my colleague, Honorable Rita Oji. I so second, Mr. Speaker. Thank you.
Honorable Rita, 2 minutes to argue the motion.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and distinguished colleagues, once more for yielding the microphone to me. This motion, Mr. Speaker and distinguished colleagues, will not in a small measure assist in first mandate. Mr. Speaker and distinguished colleagues, you could recall that 3 weeks ago, I lost 5 of my youths just because the only federal presence in Ajeromi Fellow, as I'm talking to you now, is the trucks, tankers and containers, the offshoot from Apapa Road, where every street in Ajeromi Fellow is now accommodated by tankers and trucks. Mr. Speaker, this has generated its own employment. The employment it generates is that all the boys in all the streets are formed into groups to collect 1,000 naira from the truck owners. And in that process, a lot of youths are killing themselves for the purpose of that money they are collecting. And who are they remitting it to? In this investigation, it should be made clear. Mr. Speaker and distinguished colleagues, the problem we are having in Ajeromi is enormous because a lot of youths are in the streets on a daily basis doing nothing. They are readily available for mischief makers. When they are doing nothing, they become inventories for politicians to come and take a couple of them to go and fight or do other things. At the end of the day, 2 or 3 might not come home, or 5 or 6 may not come home. Ajebula has been turned to a theater of war because those truck and tankers are now the only means of livelihood for the youth. They queue in and fight and kill. The blood that is sprinkling in Ajebula is giving a lot of Nigerians problem. And if a technology acquisition center of this magnitude that was aimed at giving at least 600 youths training every quarterly as proposed. Mr. Speaker, it is going to be a very laudable project for the federal government. Hence, we have no federal government project in Ajeromi Ifelodu since the press has been removed from there. Mr. Speaker and distinguished colleagues, and we have taken a lot of measures to ensure that this project comes. In fact, at the stage I become an errand girl. I will go to the minister will say I will go to DG, and all this, in fact, the drawing of this project has been made. The 3D drawing has been made. In fact, they have gone far to get the advert to put the signboard. Till today, nothing. When you ask, the minister will say, ask the digital, I don't have power. At the end of the day, I don't want to know whether the tailor or the dress is the problem. I don't know whether it's the barber that doesn't know how to barb or the razor is weak. Mr. Speaker, I'm calling upon every Nigerian that loves the development of youth that we should not be paying a lip service to youth development. This is a project that will create a very wonderful atmosphere for development of this youth. Instead of me coming here every time to say, ask for 2 minutes silence for 10 or 11 of them that dies because they are fighting for 1 naira to 2 naira, they made from containers. Mr. Speaker and distinguished colleagues, I ask, this house is the house of the commons, the house that has given Ajebula the voice, the house that has made us know that we belong to Nigeria. I pray that you people will support us in this quest so that this project will be a reality. Thank you, Mr. Speaker and distinguished colleagues.
Any contributor to the debate? Otherwise, I'll put the question. Those in favor of the motion say aye. Those against it say nay. Ayes have it. So, honorable colleagues, we move to consideration. Oh, there's another 8th order of the day, which is a motion on need for the River Basin Development Authorities to focus on their statutory mandate to reduce Nigeria's dependency on rain-fed agriculture, standing in the name of Honorable Emmanuel Okwate. Honorable Emmanuel Okwate is now invited to move the motion.
Thank you very much, Right Honorable Speaker, distinguished colleagues. I am Honorable Emmanuel Okwate, representing the good people of Bukarafun, Orukonam Federal Constituency. Mr. Speaker, my motion is on the need for the River Basin Development Authorities to focus on their statutory mandate to reduce Nigeria's dependency on rain-fed agriculture. Mr. Speaker, the House notes that Nigeria